The moment that I received the initial diagnosis was 10 days after I married Cody, after our wedding. I had a biopsy shortly after the wedding, and I was waiting for a call for those results. I was at work, and I went to my car as I saw I missed a call. I went to my car and returned the phone call to then be told by my doctor that it was in fact cancer. The biopsy came back positive, showing triple negative. It was a short conversation, and she let me know that a nurse would follow up to give me more information at that time. And the first thought was disbelief, and that I needed to tell Cody. Yes. Terrified. I never questioned life or death initially, and the reason being is my mom was diagnosed with 2 different types of breast cancer over the course of my young adulthood. And she did fabulous with the treatment. She didn't have major issues. The reoccurrence was not considered a reoccurrence because it was a different type of breast cancer. So that's all I knew. And I saw my mom go through it, and I thought, okay, this is a bump in the road. Cody and I will take this on as we do. We'll fight, and it's just going to be a part of our story, and we'll move forward from this. I remember he was so strong on the phone. I called him until I told him that I would be losing my hair. And that was the one thing that made him cry. Just the idea of the impact that this would have on him and myself. More so, he cared about how it would impact me in relation to the outward and inward appearance. The moment that I lost my hair initially, the first time, I've now lost my hair 3 times. The first time we made it a party. I hired our wedding photographer, which was so special. And she came and we filmed it and we laughed, and she did a great job just capturing moments of joy. My best friend flew up from Paso Robles to shave my head. She did half shave initially, then the other half shave, and we made it a really fun afternoon. And at that moment, I felt like it was a part of the journey that was needed to heal. This was a part of the chapter that we were in. The first go around, I made the choice to shave my head prior to losing any hair.
Perfect. So you took control.
I did. I knew from my mother. Interestingly enough, our treatments were exactly the same, though my cancer was different, and it was 17 years apart. The exact same chemotherapy. And I knew how it affected her, and I knew that the adriamycin was evil, and that I would shortly after my first round would lose hair. And so I made the choice to shave my head prior to that. During the times that I was very sick, I had Cody by my side the entire time. His strength, his resilience, his positivity was absolutely instrumental. My family also chose to be there with me, though out of state and out of their realm of their day-to-day, they gave up everything to be in our home with us. So the partnership between my husband and my family was everything to me. I didn't have a need that wasn't met immediately. I felt safe, secure. He never wavered. It was never a question of if we can do this. We spoke only of this will be done soon. And that's what we continued to focus on throughout the entirety of the first diagnosis, which in its entirety was over 2 years. The ending of the first diagnosis was beautiful. I once again hired our photographer from our wedding, who I should now say is just a dear friend, and we did a celebratory photo shoot. We went out to Hood River in Oregon, which is an absolutely beautiful landscape, and we celebrated. We did a photo shoot. We planned a trip with friends down to Mexico, and we really sought an opportunity to celebrate and just bring joy. And it felt, after 2 years, normal, or what we felt should be normal.
Did you feel full of hope?
Absolutely full of hope. We were so excited to be in Oregon. Our plan moving forward was to relish in this new life. When we moved to Oregon, COVID hit shortly after. We didn't have an opportunity to establish friendship or community, and we were really excited to lay down our roots and really start to establish life. I had dreams of a garden. I'm a big gardener. I really wanted to turn our backyard into something of an oasis that we could come and enjoy and just really enjoy our home. We had exciting opportunities to maybe do a little remodel in our home. It was our first home, so we had a lot of dreams. And travel. Cody and I have a passion of traveling. It's something that we've really connected on over the years, and we're unable to do any traveling during my diagnosis, so we really were excited and started speaking of trips and planning a trip to Italy that we didn't get to do. But
Explain that. Did any of that happen?
none of the plans that we had happened after I was diagnosed the first time, and after they told me that everything was taken care of, I suppose, cancer-free, whatever verbiage that they led us to believe, that we were secure in the treatment that we had received. We did not have an opportunity to live out any of those dreams that we had after the initial diagnosis was over. After I was deemed cancer-free and in remission, not but 3 months after, I started experiencing chest pain and chest pressure. It was something I hadn't experienced before, and it was hard to explain. So when I went to my doctor initially, I explained it as chest pressure, and they hyper-focused on my heart. It wasn't anything outside of my heart. So we did echocardiograms, we did stress tests. I had things hooked up to me for days that were tracking my heart rate. I had to notate when I felt the pressure and the pain. And for months, I was told everything looked good. I started experiencing that in March. And April, May, June went by, and I kept feeling more intense pain and pressure. And finally, it got to the point that my insurance company said, we're not going to approve any more heart-specific testing due to the fact that your heart is fine. So my insurance company actually came forward and said, you need to look at your lungs. Your doctor, your physicians, your medical team, they need to look at your lungs. So it was not my medical team that actually found my cancer. Surprisingly, it was the prompt from my insurance, unwilling to cover any more heart-specific testing. And sure enough, my lungs had a tumor that was almost so large that they did not have any options for me at that time. When we were told that triple negative had returned to my lungs, it was after over a month of testing. I had to have an initial biopsy that I was then told they didn't use state-of-the-art equipment and were unable to test the biopsy in an effective way. So I had to have a second biopsy. All throughout this time, receiving no information from my oncologist as to what this might look like. And finally, after a month of testing, when I was told that it had returned to my lungs, they basically stated, and I quote my oncologist saying, "We gave you everything but the kitchen sink. There's nothing else that we can give you." And she gave us a death sentence at that time. She said, this is nothing that we can cure. We can try to maintain your life by giving you the same chemotherapy that was shown to be ineffective. And that was the moment that we realized that we had no hope in standard care. What was going through my mind when I was told I was terminal and there was no hope was disbelief. I remember thinking this has to be a bad dream. This can't be real. It was shock. It was complete shock. I remember Cody and I left the office and we got in the elevator and I just collapsed because it was so scary. And in that moment, it felt unreal. We were told that there was no hope. We were told that I had one option of chemotherapy within standard care. This option had not worked for me in the prior years of treatment. When they did my double mastectomy, they found that my tumor grew throughout chemotherapy, leading them to believe chemo had no effect on me. So what Cody and I couldn't wrap our heads around was going back on a chemo that would hurt my body and have zero efficacy for my tumor. And that's when we decided to take matters into our own hands and start researching and diving into a world of integrative and alternative treatments, praying that we could find something, some hope in my diagnosis. We were soon, well, how should I start? Starting over. The reality that set in when we realized that alternative treatment was our only option was an initial conversation that we had with an integrative oncologist in Southern California, where she gave us hope. She had a plan. She told us that she would work with us. She was willing to take on this case, but insurance did not recognize any of her treatment. There was absolutely no possibility of receiving even a reimbursement. And though we were naive in the moment as to the magnitude of the cost, we knew how much standard care was, and insurance took care of all of that for us. Within the first week, we had over $15,000 in medical bills. 1 week into our treatment. And though we prayed and hoped that we would have success within 6 to 8 weeks of her treatment, we soon found out that my body had a different plan. And though it was effective, we're now 12 months into this treatment of 4 to 5 days of treatment. On average, $8,000 to $12,000 a week to stay alive. The impact on my family, the impact on my relationship with my husband, the level of stress and anxiety for my husband, the one that arguably loves me the absolute most in this world, is astronomical. I remember sitting in the doctor's office week 2, realizing and fully starting to understand what this is going to mean. And all I could think about was, I'm going to die because we can't afford this. I can't allow my family to go into financial ruin for me. I can't do that. And I struggled with severe panic attacks that I cannot explain how awful that feels. You feel like you're dying. You feel like your entire body is just shutting down and you have no control. And I've had to seek therapy and seek support just to get through the day-to-day solely for the financial reason. Not even the cancer reason. The financial reason has been so much more astronomical on my mental health and my family and my husband's mental health than anything else. And the hardest part of it is that it's working. The hardest part of this is that we don't want to give up because it's shown to be successful for me something that we didn't have success the first 2 years. We were lost in this shuffle of go here, do this, see this person get this test, try this new and improved drug. We tried everything. So the fact that we found something so incredibly helpful and then being met with the financial burden of it maybe not being possible has been debilitating for not only me but my family. When I was diagnosed the second time around, when we decided to go the alternative treatment route, I reached out to my loved ones in desperation. And one person that was there for us through all of it, along with our other family, was my mother-in-law, Annette. And she was determined to find options for us. I was not in a mental space that I was able to do the research. And so initially it was a conversation that I had with her that she would do the research and then we would reach out. I soon realized I couldn't even do the reach out. So she took it on and she came across Sabe's Wings, I believe, just online doing a Google search. We are from Paso Robles. Our community is here. We feel so much love and support, so that's where we started. We started in Paso. She found Sabe's, and I remember that initial conversation I had with her. She spoke with Candace, and it was the first time that I heard hope in her voice, that there was this beautiful group that would help us, because a lot of these larger financial support groups have so many stipulations that we didn't qualify for one reason or another reason, whatever the case may be. And Sabe's Wings offered hope that we may actually be chosen for help. The day that I learned that we were awarded that grant was shortly after I had started treatment. And that was the period of time. There were so many unknowns, and the anxiety ran so deep through me and through Cody. And there was that first sense of hope. That was the first donation that we received that gave us the courage to continue, that gave us the hope that we needed to push forward. And it was everything to our process of healing. It was everything to this decision that we made. Naturally, we were unsure if this was right for us. We were second guessing. We didn't know where else to turn. But having this grant gifted to us gave us that reassurance that we could do this and we could move forward with this treatment that we felt was the absolute right thing for us. It was everything. I have been with Dr. Virginia von Schaefer for 12 months. I celebrated my 1-year anniversary yesterday, and I say celebrate because she's given me life. Her treatment has given me life. My tumor in my lung that I was told 12 months ago we had no hope has been eradicated. It is no longer in my lungs. I don't even have scar tissue at this point due to the systemic treatment that I have received. From my neck down, I am completely cancer-free. We have one small lesion, half the size of a little BB pellet in my brain that I will soon have treatment, and my radiologist is extremely confident in eradicating that as well. And I will be, at that moment, tumor-free in my body. When we received the news that Sabe's Wings was willing to grant us funds, it eliminated a huge amount of stress, anxiety, fear. It was so much more than the financial gift. It was the willingness for the community to come together and support us. And it was the start of something absolutely beautiful that my husband and I have experienced for 12 months. Sabes was the initial stage of this journey that now has countless beautiful stories. And Sabes Wings has integrated their story and our story this entire time, coming alongside us for fundraisers and supporting us through every step of the way. Board members that have come forward and supported us because they heard our story. Initially is so initial because it was such a blessing initially, but as the months have gone on, the appreciation and the love that we've felt has superseded any of our expectations. So Cody and I were celebrating our anniversary together between treatment, and we received notification that Tully Kennedy and his beautiful wife, Alyssa, wanted to help and wanted to do more, not only help financially, but establish a relationship with someone in need that had been touched by cancer. And that stood out to me so much because I thought, here's a couple that Tully's famous and they don't know us, and there's so many other people in the world in need, and they chose us. And not only were they willing to give, but they wanted to get to know us. We were connected with a phone call shortly after where they introduced themselves, and their souls just shined through that conversation. It was such a blessing. They were so giving. They were so caring. There was no level of them being famous or having this life or anything. It was them as a friend wanting to know what they could do to support us. Never have met us, did not know us. And that meant everything. It was an absolute blessing. They've continued to support. They've continued to donate for our fundraisers. And the heart behind that couple is so beautiful and so pure. And it really made Cody and I not only appreciate them, but look at ourselves as well and know that we hope someday we can be in that space that we can give back and be those people for someone else, because here we're complete strangers that were willing to do that for us. And it meant everything. And we still correspond with them. I just spoke to Alyssa last week, and they're amazing. They're absolutely beautiful people, and we're so, so blessed by their generosity.
It's really beautiful.
I had never been exposed to any medical toxicity financially. When I went through the first diagnosis, it was like a flow chart. You start here, and you jump down to number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and then you're spit out at the end, and everything is taken care of. It's almost too streamlined. But the financial burden did not affect us the first go around because we were in the system, and our insurance was decent, and we did everything that we were supposed to do. So I was naive to the fact of how much it was and how much influence they have on the patient based on that financial security, as you would say, if you go through standard care. When I was introduced to alternative treatment, because standard care didn't work, which is what was so hard for me, I would tell people, if this worked, I would have stayed in standard care. Why wouldn't I have? I'm not choosing to do this alternative because it's fun. I'm choosing to do alternative because it's going to save my life. And that was the moment that we were faced with having to make this huge decision that we wouldn't have any support from our insurance company. It even went so far that I was requesting an advocate. I didn't fully understand initially. I requested an advocate through my insurance that could work with us and maybe give us additional information or hope. And she not only told us that there was absolutely nothing that they would do, she threatened us saying that we should not be seeing my oncologist, that we needed to see someone in the system. And even more so, that this person that I was seeing would not be successful with my treatment, and scared us. And we were left feeling confused, we were left feeling scared, and this was weeks into choosing Dr. Von Schaefer. So not only was there a level of fear for not having the funds, there was a level of fear through my insurance company threatening us that if we didn't go through standard care, that we were going to have very negative results. When we were told that the option of doing alternative treatment would not be successful by our insurance company, when we were told that we needed to go through standard care, we were threatened that if I continued alternative treatment, the result was going to be extremely negative for us. I got off the phone and she scared me. And I looked at Cody, who had listened to the conversation as well, and I said, do we drop everything and go back to standard care? Because I don't want to do the wrong thing. And he said, absolutely not. That is not the road that we're on. We'll continue to go down this road because this is the right road for us. We never spoke to her again.
What it was like to watch my wife go through not one, but two cancer diagnoses. The first diagnosis, it was 10 days after our wedding date, which was September 25th, 2020. I remember receiving the call from Stacie. I was at work, and leading up to this, she had the biopsy. We found a small lump prior to our wedding too, which we didn't really think anything of. We were so focused on our wedding being on this high and just getting ready to start our lives as a married couple. And receiving the call at that point, Stacie broke the news to me, and it was a shock. I was in a little disbelief because we had just gone through this exciting moment in our lives, being surrounded by some of the people we love most on this earth. And it was, my heart just really sunk at that point, hearing the emotion come from her voice and receiving that, and trying to mentally pivot quickly into a positive space to be encouraging and supportive. Yeah. So the second diagnosis was much different. Shortly after the first diagnosis, we were given a pretty steady treatment plan. It was very just formal, just basically bullet points of this is what you're going to do, who you're going to see, who you're going to follow up with. They gave us, a lot of reassurance, and they were very confident and really hyped up that first treatment plan, which made us feel really positive, encouraged about it. Going through that process, of course, it didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. Leading into the second diagnosis, it was much more traumatic, essentially because the time it took for our medical team to diagnose the cancer again, the back and forth between 3 different biopsies that they had to do because they were unsuccessful with 2 of them. Just the pain and trauma of waiting was superseded a lot of other emotions and feelings. So when we were given the news in the doctor's office that her cancer had metastasized to her lungs, or her one lung, 2 different tumors, one very significantly large. Mm-hmm. It was an emotion I never felt before. I immediately thought of just the worst possible outcome. And the doctor's response was just inadequate and not something that we wanted to hear and we weren't going to stand for. So leaving that office, I remember going down the elevator from the second story and Stacie falling into my arms, and I practically carried her out to the parking lot. And for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks it seemed like, she was basically bedridden. It's like she saw a ghost, and that look was almost like permanently on her. And it was the most traumatizing feeling I've ever had, watching my person go through that. So what our oncologist at that time told us when we received that news, they essentially said that they threw everything at us but the kitchen sink, and there was no other alternative solution that they could give us that would cure Stacie's diagnosis. The only thing that they could do was continue chemotherapy, which her cancer shown and proved to be chemo-resistant. So we were left with one choice of giving her the poison and toxicity of something that was going to deplete her quality of life even more. Who was my rock throughout this journey? My wife, Stacie, was my rock. She was my hero. To see her not give up was the most inspiring thing I've ever witnessed. Yeah. Was there an experience like the loss of her losing her hair? Absolutely. During each diagnosis was entirely different. The first diagnosis, we made it a celebration. We hired our wedding photographer to be there the day of. It was shortly before she started to lose her hair and it started to fade a little bit. And I do recall the moment where I noticed that was when we went to the Columbia Gorge. We went out just for a day trip, just the two of us to get away. And we found this really awesome orchard and this cool little beer and wine bar and food truck, and she was feeling very sick. And I noticed, she had her hair up in a ponytail, and the sides of her head were starting to fade a little bit. And first time I noticed that, so that was the time we realized we had to get ahead of it. So, like I mentioned, we hired our wedding photographer. We flew Brittany and her best friend up and her husband, and they've been extremely supportive for us throughout this journey. And she ended up shaving Stacie's head and gave her a couple of different hairdos throughout the experience, and we ended up shaving my head as well. And it was just a very magical moment. And it brought some happiness and joy for it being such a traumatic experience. She looked amazing with the bald head. Probably the most beautiful I've ever seen her. The second diagnosis, she lost her hair twice. I'll speak more so to the second time. It was after Thanksgiving 2022. And she had already done, I think, close to a dozen rounds of low-dose chemotherapy with our new oncologist, and she was really starting to lose it at that point. And my parents were with us at that time, and my mom was able to capture it on video, and I was able to shave her head that time, and just felt different. Not as happy and joyful, but we knew at that time her treatments were working at the same time too, and that we knew we were going to be in a good place with it all. The vulnerability of asking for help took a significant effect on both Stacie and I. Probably more so me. I have a very hard time asking for help. Ever since I was a little kid, I was, I don't need much for Christmas, my birthday, just always try to stay humble with things. And it took a lot to outreach, and I could not get myself to do it directly, and I had to lean on family and close friends for that support. And the unwavering support that they gave us, which was just unconditional, and I should have never expected less. But everyone rose to the occasion, and immediately we got a great return on that, and it meant so much to us because we had to focus on each other and her progress and just her overall health. So it gave me peace of mind to not have to worry about doing that directly. One or two things that really kind of turned our hope around. I think first was finding Dr. Virginia von Schaefer, just kind of miraculously. Seems like she's one of a kind out there, and was the only person that I spoke to out of multiple individuals that really wanted to action immediately and had a plan. And her experience and her testimonials that she was able to give to us just gave us the utmost confidence. And it was at a period when Stacie was just completely down and could not even care for herself. And it just turned on a light that there is another possibility.
How'd you find her?
Coincidentally enough, Stacie did come across just kind of a random acquaintance through her first diagnosis that I think brought up Dr. V. And this was a year and a half prior to being diagnosed the second time. And I think we had just randomly remembered that information, that little tidbit, and looked her up, found her name, and sure enough, that's what that was her expertise, and she's been doing this for several years now. And so it was just a blessing, to just come across that one person a year plus prior, and it was just a gift that we never thought we would need, and we were able to reach out and just feel the love and support from her and her team. What is our message to those people that feel like they have no hope? Stacie and I, through this journey, have realized that we want to be advocates for people that feel the same way we felt, in initially thinking that they may have no hope because that's what standard care told them. But we want to tell our message that there is hope, there's always an opportunity, there's always a second chance. Get a second opinion, reach out, have people help you reach out, research, as little as it is marketed out there. There are people that are doing different things in the cancer world that are helping people every day. And don't allow the corporate monster bring you down to where you think that you don't have a chance. So to talk about the journey with Sabe's Wings, from start to finish, as we were looking for help to our family members and friends to look for financial assistance, my mother, Annette, she came across Sabe's Wings. Again, I can't recall if it was through a friend or just research, but that woman got her hands dirty and fought for us like no other. I shouldn't say that. Everyone fought their hardest for us, but she spent a lot of time and spoke to the other Candace with Sabe's Wings, and there was an immediate connection. And I was not directly introduced to you guys at that time, as we were just transitioning down in Orange County to this new care and doctor. And then my mom told me that Sabe's Wings was granting us financial assistance. It was the first ray of hope that we had financially, to give us encouragement and take us in a positive direction. And my mom spoke the world of your organization and the other Candace. And she told me that, she wanted me to connect with you guys. And yeah, it was a few weeks into being down in Orange County, and I remember receiving the call from Candace Saberhagen. Stacie was I think she was in chemo treatment that day and struggling, and I was anticipating the call and immediately ran outside in the hallway of the doctor's office. And as soon as I heard Candace's voice, it was literally like the voice of an angel. She gave me this calming, soothing, overwhelmingly loving feeling that I hadn't had yet. And, sorry. And I kept it together at that time. And she started to get a little emotional right off the bat. And she made me aware that Sabe's Wings was going to be donating to us. And that was the first sizable donation that we had received. I just couldn't thank you guys enough for that support, because there were a lot of dark moments at that time, knowing that we were running low on funds. We had already maxed out a few credit cards, and we didn't know where this was going to go. And Kenneth and I talked for a brief time, and I felt inspired. But after I hung up, I immediately dropped to the floor and just broke down a little bit, just because I was so thankful and blessed. And I knew that there were people out there, strangers, that were willing to help. And not just in that moment, but Saves Wings has been carrying us. Carrying us through a lot of different avenues, our own fundraisers. Saves Wings has been backing us on everything that we've been trying to do and raise money for us, and really sponsoring us and being some of our biggest advocates and allowing us to have these opportunities to speak about our story and be vocal about it and feel good about it and being able to relate to you guys about it.
Awesome.
I'd like to say something, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Just my recollection. I remember when Cody mentioned to me that he was going to speak to, I believe he knew Candace was going to call at that point, and I remember being surprised because in that moment he wasn't speaking to anyone. Neither of us were really able to speak to people, and it felt scary to speak to people that we didn't know because we were both in such a vulnerable space. And I think we both had a level of calm about Saves Wings even before we knew what you were all about. And I don't think that's an accident. And I remember Cody coming back. He just shared that he broke down. I didn't know that until just now. But I remember he came back different. And there was something different after he spoke with Candace. Like, there was hope, and it meant everything in that moment to see him, because one of the hardest things for me as a cancer patient is to see how it affects people around me. I can do this, I can go through treatment. It's hard. That's fine. But the people that I love the most that are hurting because of what happens to me is so hard. So being able to see him come back in after that conversation with Candace was so special for us in this journey that we've been on, because I knew at that moment that we were going to be okay. And I truly believe that our success and our financial ability to be able to raise money has solely been because of our amazing, sweet partnership with Saves Wings. I believe that full-heartedly.
Thank you, guys. I think we've cried enough today.
That's it.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you might put them down and...
I try not to share those things.
All right.
I'm just going to have you two sit down for 1 second.
Yeah.
Yes.
Back where you were.
Okay.
All right, what I want you to do is, if you would, I want you to grab shots of Stacie looking at him, their hands, all that stuff, her eyes.
We're actually going to take it alongside it.
Just look right here,
Yeah.
as if you're still talking. And then, Stacie, you're looking exactly. You're kind of acknowledging the fact that, he's telling you that what he's saying is true. Stacie, look right here. Okay, look back up at him. Okay, I want you to go ahead and go down to the arm real quick. Leave your hands like they are, just like they are. And then I want you to tell me when you're ready. Stand by. Okay, and want you to bring your other arm in and hold his arm tight. Okay, and then you're going to kind of relax your right arm and just kind of hold your hand, both your hands on his. Uh-huh. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Okay. I want you to slide up to her face from there, if you can do that. Look in here. Look at him.